Hey, it's Chuck. We are not bemoaning the noon kickoff. We are now owning it. It's a badge of honor. We're the lunatic fringe that defines our coach's legacy when it comes to this game. They don't get to define that outside the family. Dude, we're cut from a different cloth for Ohioans. He's got it all, man. He's even got the jaw. You know the jaw. You see that jaw and you're just like, yeah, man, that's a dude. Do I want Michigan to beat Oklahoma? No way in hell. I don't know what world I'm living in. This is insane to me. And if you saw my outburst, I apologize. It's showtime now. You know that jaw. I got the best compliment today ever. The guy said, Chuck, you got the jaw, the podcast jaw. You know the jaw? I thought that was pretty clever. Welcome in. Appreciate you for joining us here at Buckeye Huddle Primetime Live. Of course, we are here every Monday and Wednesday at 8 p.m. at Buckeye Huddle, bringing you the absolute best Ohio State coverage that we can. Mark and I have been doing some commitment capsules for every commit in the class of 2027. Check those out on the channel. I love doing those things. We pretty much go over the film. We go over the story of each recruitment, and some of them better than others, more exciting than others. Obviously, some are really exciting. Braxton Rembert's is unbelievable. Braxton Rembert, a guy who had one offer from Wake Forest, committed to Wake Forest, never got another offer, even after Ohio State offered him. And I wanted to know the story, man. Like, how did he get this Ohio State offer and nobody else was in on him? And he told me that people were making fun of him. His friends were making fun of him. He was embarrassed. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, they were saying that I didn't deserve the Wake Forest offer because no other offers came. So I sat down with my film. I had been injured my sophomore and junior year, sat down, got all the film I could get together, and started sending it to all the services and everybody I could think of, got some contacts, emailed it out to everybody. And wouldn't you know it, that film made its way to Ohio State. And the Ohio State Buckeyes offered this kid off of that film that he sent out. He got himself noticed by Ohio State. Nobody's laughing now at Braxton Rembert at his school what is it? Hoshton, Georgia. Caleb Downs High School, right? Dude goes to Caleb Downs High School. Not only that, but he leads the entire region in scoring, like player of the year in the region in basketball. Just a supreme athlete. But even after he committed to the Buckeyes, nobody tried to flip him. Nobody else offered him. So that dude will forever just have the Wake Forest and the Ohio State offer, which I think is awesome. But check out those capsules. They're really cool, man. I really like doing them. Over on Juck on Bucks, I started this morning with my awards, my superlatives. So today we did the Bo Jackson Impact Freshman of the Year. And if you haven't watched that, you might want to check that one out. So we've got all sorts of awards, and the Ryan Shazier Hardest Hitter of the class. We got the Orlando Pace Future Highest Draft Pick Award. We've got the Isaiah West Most Underrated Player of the Year Award. We've even got the Chaz Coleman Award, and I know you're thinking that's not a Buckeye. Correct. My superlatives are for the staff as well. The Carter Smith Award, Indiana's Big Ten Offensive Lineman of the Year. What's that have to do with Ohio State recruiting? You're going to find out. And I've got 22 of them to do. Each one has several nominees. And I think it's a really, I make a case for each guy. I think it's a really fun way to kind of discuss each one of these prospects in this class of 2027 that turned out to be an absolute banger. And we are probably going to end up in the top 5 here. Probably going to end up in the top 5 when we get the big news from Legend. I did the class calculate. Pardon me, the class calculator, and the paperwork is processed. It's being signed by Tennessee to release Legend. And once he's in the class calculator says that Ohio State's class will jump over Georgia into 5th. Doesn't mean it's going to finish that way. Georgia still might get somebody from now to or in the final signing day, but the Buckeyes will be sitting at 5th, and that would be just such an amazing turnaround from where they were sitting coming out of the summer. And I wrote a column over at Buckeye Huddle, kind of just talking about the philosophy, why it changed, kind of how this class got here. And I just thought it was fun to kind of document it because it was such a crazy ride, man. It was such a crazy ride. And the coolest part, I think that we're going to continue to see this. I think we're going to continue to see it operate like this, which I just loved, man. I thought it was so exciting going and hunting after other people's prospects after so many years of playing defense at the end. So check that out over at buckeyehuddle.com. But over the weekend, obviously not just a few games to watch. Army, Navy, Washington, Boise, and it was weird with all this Jed Fish talk that Washington was on the stage here, but a whole lot going on in the world of college football, and we got a lot to talk about tonight on the show. But our last Buckeye Huddle prime time was the record audience, and we get that by hitting the like button. So if you could please hit the like button for me right now, it'll pump it out to as many people as possible. And we will maybe set another record tonight, which would be awesome. It lets the bosses know that they didn't make a mistake bringing me in here. But let's get to the business here. So I want to talk about tonight some game-changing gear deals that a couple of schools got recently that Ohio State does not have. And Ohio State wants to be the leader in third-party NIL deals. That is where Ross Bjork sees the future of this going. Well, something needs to change with the Ohio State Nike deal, because the way they are now taking care of LSU had me feeling a little jealous here. Also want to go over Penn State's deal compared to Ohio State's. You're not going to believe this, but we got to go over that. We got to go over some massive portal entrants, which I got something to share with you. Pretty funny about the portal entrants. Quarterbacks, man, quarterbacks galore. These dudes are about to make ridiculous offers. We're going to start seeing them roll through. It's going to be kind of funny because a lot of them are not going to pan out, and a lot of them have already shown us that they're just not it. The Ohio State offensive line ran across something today that I think bodes pretty well, thanks to the BuckeyeHuddle.com board, by the way, which you can join, and it is the best board in all of the board space. But big news first, as All-Americans have been named from two of the services, I believe. You had the AP come out and the Walter Camp so far. And both the AP and the Walter Camp have named Caleb, Caden McDonald, Arvell Reese, and Jeremiah first-team All-Americans. So that's two. There's 5 major ones total. 5 of them is consensus. 3 of them is unanimous. So they're all just one spot away from unanimous or from consensus. Unanimous. Unanimous. And obviously we know that for sure a couple of them are definitely going to get consensus, but all 4 players were named on Friday to Walter Camp and today to the AP. We also have the AFCA tomorrow, the Sporting News on Wednesday, the FWAA on Thursday, still to go. Carnell Tate, Sonny Styles, each picked up second-team All-American honors by the AP, and that is obviously a huge deal. Julian Sayin earned third team, as did Caden Curry. So congrats to all of those guys, man. I think that's awesome to have 4 first-teamers. The Ohio State offensive line was not great against Indiana, as we know. I don't think that they were the sole reason Ohio State lost, but I think there was a lot of things that needed to come together for Ohio State to lose that game. You had poor decisions, in my opinion. You had a lack of adjustments, especially when you saw how Indiana was going to be playing Ohio State in the heavy personnel sets. You had a missed kick by a kicker who seems to have an issue kicking under pressure, to be quite honest. I don't know how you fix that going forward. You've got Jackson Corville on the roster, but you haven't played him all year. You haven't seen him kick all year. In addition to that, Indiana just made some plays, and that's going to happen. And when all was said and done, a very close game. A very, very close game. It's true, Ohio State did not play their best. And it's true, there was a lot of distractions. Urban Meyer came out and talked about a conversation that he had with Ryan Day. And he said that Ryan told him, I think we needed it. And I could certainly understand where he's coming from when he says, I think we needed it. When you had won 16 games in a row in a team full of young guys that had not lost together yet as starters, a loss can recalibrate. A loss can give a lot of drive, and you can't take another loss. This is it. It's all come down to this. But it is pretty disheartening because the entire season Ryan Day was preaching that we don't want to have to take a loss to fix things. And you took the loss. And for me, the buck stops in that loss with the coaching staff. Choosing to go back to that heavy personnel, 13, 14, in this huge moment just felt like the wrong choice. And more than that, they never adjusted out of it. Indiana was playing like a goal line defense against it, even at like the 10-yard line. It just, it felt like there were no adjustments. Choosing not to be aggressive at halftime when you only had 8 possessions the entire game felt like that could have been played a different way. Choosing not to step on the gas at all when you talked about stepping on the gas and now it's time, felt like maybe that could have been a different choice, played a different way. I guess the thing that concerns me most is not the loss to Indiana, but the inability to kind of adjust during the game. Now, a lot of people think that's just because it was the Big Ten championship, and now we're going to see something different in the playoffs, and those folks could be right. But there was certainly a lack of preparedness by the offensive line, an offensive line that had played 2 teams in the second half of the season that did a whole lot of stunting and twisting up front, simulated pressure in Purdue and Wisconsin. And each of those teams had 11 pressures against Ohio State. Now, they knew Indiana did a lot of this, and it felt like they came in a little underprepared for it. Either that or their players just can't execute it. I don't know which. Either way, their players, the Buckeye offensive linemen, did get beat up pretty bad by the Indiana defensive line. They were more violent. They used their hands better. They had better pad level all night. And that sucks to see. That sucks to see. And it kind of makes me kind of deflated as you're moving forward here, because I feel like if you keep Julian clean against any of these teams moving forward, you got a really good shot to beat everybody, a really good shot, but you have to be able to do that. He can't be running like that because we saw him for the first time get rattled. We saw him get a little rattled. We saw him get happy feet. He pulled it together somewhat, did pretty good doing that. That was the first game he ever had to deal with that. And he'll continue to get better in those situations. But when we look at that O-line, that Indiana O-line, the best one they've played since Texas, right? You go from game number 1 to game number 13, you expect to see a lot of improvement. And now you go into the next game without Tegra, which means you've got a big lack of experience. Now, nobody's going to be crying because there's no Tegra, but it feels like, you could have pulled Tegra a while ago and had a lot more experience going into this game. You know what I mean? So what now? What's the situation now that everybody knows kind of what Ohio State's kryptonite is offensively? All you got to do is get a whole lot of lateral motion, twists, stunts, simulated pressures, and the offensive line might crumble, and you're going to get pressure on Julian Sayin. Well, it sounds easy to do all that, but can anybody execute it like Indiana did? That's a whole nother situation there. Obviously, when you look at the teams Ohio State has that are playing in the bracket here, Texas A&M, Miami, Georgia, they all got a lot of skilled players up front. When we look at defenses and how they play, if you run a lot of stunts and twists and simulated pressures, that's either kind of part of your defense or it's not. And when we look at the Ohio State bracket with Texas A&M and Miami and Georgia, somebody on the Buckeye Huddle board, our buddy Mount Pleasant Buckeye, posted some stats here that I thought were pretty interesting. So when you look at Indiana, stunts, blitzes, and pressures, they stunt 33% of the time. That's 10th in the country. They blitz 42% of the time, also 10th in the country. And they apply simulated pressure 54% of their snaps. That is second in the country. So what they did to beat Ohio State is something that they're used to doing, and they do it a ton. So with them doing that so much, when Texas and Miami see that blueprint, whoever wins, they're going to try to emulate that, right? The question is, can they get it done? Will they take the chance to get it done? Well, Miami, for instance, how often do they do it? How much of the part of their defense is this? They stunt 14% of the time. That is 99th in the country. They blitz 41. That's 14th. So a lot of blitzes, not a lot of stunts. That bodes much better for the Buckeyes, I think, than the higher stunt rate. Simulated pressure, 28% of the time. That is 32nd. Texas A&M, their stunt rate, 126th in the country. Blitz, 90th. Simulated pressure, 88th. That's our guy. Texas A&M is the guy. They don't do a whole lot of the stuff that we just saw give Ohio State fits. So I was rooting for Texas A&M already. And the reason I was rooting for them, even though I would love to, crush Miami's hopes and dreams again. That's always fun. Miami is my third most hated team behind Michigan and USC. Then it's Miami. So always love to beat them. When we look at the matchup, like they can get really hot with Carson Beck, or they can be terrible. But Texas A&M represents the opportunity to beat the SEC for the fourth time in a row. And then potentially after that, roll into Georgia or Ole Miss. That would be an opportunity for the fifth time in a row. And after that, if you win those both, you got Texas next year. You could get 6 in a row. How awesome would that be, man? That would be fantastic. And I don't care about playing Texas A&M in Texas. Like, even if that stadium is 50-50, you're going to go on a silent count, right? So who cares if it's 70-30 Texas A&M fans? I don't worry about that one bit. But I want to elongate that SEC winning streak, not because I'm a big, huge hater of SEC football. I just hate their fans. I hate their fans. And I'm so sick of them throwing around Ohio State's record against the SEC in the postseason against us. I want it to be turned around. And if Ohio State can beat A&M, beat Georgia or Ole Miss, take that streak out to 5 games, and then head down to Texas next year, that would be electric for a shot at 6 in a row. And that's why I am definitely going for Texas A&M this weekend. And Miami, the 14th most blitzing team in the country, 32nd most simulated pressure. They have the ability probably to turn that up. Texas A&M being dead last in all those numbers, it's like they just can't. If you come in and try to do a bunch of that and you haven't done it all year, you're not going to hit your run fits. You're going to be a disaster. You're going to give up big plays. So they can go ahead and try it like that. It's not going to work for them. They're going to look like Michigan, like the Michigan defensive line versus the Ohio State defensive line. That's what it'll look like against Texas A&M. So I feel very confident with that matchup, much more so than Miami. Now, when we look at Georgia, if we're looking forward to the next opponent, Georgia's stunt rate is 32nd in the country. Indiana was 33rd. Their blitz rate is 35%. Indiana's was 42%. Simulated pressure, 23%. Indiana's was 54%. So Georgia kind of in between Miami and Texas A&M in that sense. So give me A&M, give me evil Ryan Day, give me step on the gas Ryan Day. And my hope is that, he's going to be furious, man. Every time he loses a game, we see him come out furious the next game. And we see him go much more aggressive. It seems to me like that's always what we see after he loses a game. Every game except for Nebraska last year. Lost to Oregon out at Oregon. And then you come back and you have a bye week, then Nebraska. And that Nebraska game was a total clunker. But you had Penn State the following week, and they came out like bandits against Penn State that second game. But other than that, when we see Ryan Day lose a game, he is so competitive, and it is just like, all right, foot on the gas. Is that what we're going to see? Man, I hope so. Hey, let's all like the video. We're trying to keep this puppy going. Like it, share it. Record-setting audience. We're on our way. We are right on our way, guys. Some surprising transfer portal announcements came out in the world of college football today. Some not so surprising. Some huge quarterback names. And we're going to see some big bucks being spent. We start in the Big Ten with Pat Fitzgerald's new guys as Michigan State starting quarterback. Aiden Childs has entered the portal. And this is a guy who, when he transferred in with Jonathan Smith from Oregon State, as a 4-star quarterback. They were really excited about. And this guy was, a lot of talk about him. So Pat Fitzgerald takes over, and this guy is going to be on his way out, which doesn't surprise me one bit because I've never liked his attitude. I've heard some sound bites from him, and he sounds like a real arrogant, me first kind of fella, kind of like a Diego Pavia. And he is going to be out at Michigan State after 2 seasons there. He'll have 1 year of eligibility left. This guy completed just 60% of his passes for 23 touchdowns, 14 picks, but he's got one hell of an arm, man. He can make all the throws, also makes a lot of bad decisions. And I'm sure somebody out there is going to pay this guy a lot of money that he doesn't deserve. Next, we got Sam Leavitt from Arizona State. And this dude is a guy who took his team to the playoffs, a pretty subpar team, really almost beat Texas that year that they went to the playoffs last year. I really liked him. I was surprised to hear that he was leaving. Early candidates for his services: Oregon, Indiana, Miami, LSU. Notice I said Oregon. Oregon, there's a chance that Dante enters the draft. In that case, they need a quarterback. Also, Indiana is going to need a quarterback as well. So they've got plenty of options here. Coincidentally, Sam Leavitt started his career at Michigan State. That'd be funny if he transferred back. But this is a guy who's going to be in high demand. Then you got Cincinnati's Brendan Sorsby, and that's a real bummer. I was really liking Cincinnati having this beast of a quarterback. I was really happy for him. I'm happy for him now because he's going to go after a really great season and get a huge payday. I don't think he's an NFL quarterback. So if he can go get himself a big payday out of college football, that's awesome. Good for him. Then we got 2 that were either, I guess, pretty expected, though I still don't understand exactly why Dylan Raiola has decided to enter the portal. Nebraska quarterback Dylan Raiola, after 2 years at Nebraska, a 5-star quarterback that committed to Nebraska. I thought it was such a cool story. His dad went there. Uncle went there. Uncle was the O-line coach there. It seemed like they had everything clicking. And then we started hearing rumors about this a month ago, and I didn't understand why. But when we look at Dylan Raiola's track record, this is a kid who went to 4 different high schools, and now he'll go to another college. Like, it's just usually past behavior indicates future behavior. He also committed to Ohio State, decommitted, committed to Florida or Georgia, decommitted, then committed to Nebraska. This guy here is someone who I think he would obviously act different if he had been the Ohio State quarterback. But, I don't like to criticize young guys, but I just feel like this guy is all about looking cool and being cool and not being great. His uncle did just get fired at Nebraska, so he's not going to be around. But it just feels like this guy has a lot of maturing to do. And of course, you're 2 years in high school or college. You should have a lot of maturing to do. But I feel like you see most of these quarterbacks have people around them that kind of help them grow up fast, at least put that public persona on. And he doesn't. $3.5 million he got paid at Nebraska, and now he will leave after 2 years. I think when we look at all these quarterbacks, it's going to be the most interesting to see where he ends up. And I got the comments section, all the Patrick Mahomes talk. Texas A&M is going to be in the running for one of these quarterbacks. I doubt they'll want Raiola. I don't think any very, here's the thing. He played pretty good last year before he got hurt, but there wasn't like some big leap from year 1 to year 2. Then we got DJ Lagway, and this is the guy who entered the season, DJ Lagway at Florida, as a lot of people's number 1 quarterback in the country. And the thought of losing him is really the reason they kept Billy Napier around for an extra year. They were so afraid that he was going to leave with Billy. They thought he was that much of a game changer. At 6'3", 247, he's huge. He's got a cannon for an arm, can make all the throws, an insane athlete. Finished his freshman season playing some really good games, some downs as well. But he beat LSU, he beat Ole Miss. And then this year, his first year starting from the jump, it was like every week, if you turned into a Florida game in the fourth quarter, you saw DJ Lagway sitting on the bench by himself with his head down, looking sad because he had just thrown another pick. The dude's a turnover machine. All the raw talent and potential in the world. And because of that, he's going to make a ton of money. Billy Napier gets fired. In comes John Summerall from Tulane. Shout out John Summerall from Tulane, who just donated $100,000 to Tulane's NIL on his way out the door. How awesome is that guy? Anyway, it sounds like in this case, this was, I'm saving some of your comments, guys. I see that you're throwing out here to me. It sounds like this was a case of Florida was not going to match the financial package. And there we go. We are at the record. Thank you guys for liking the show. All-time record for Buckeye Huddle Primetime. Appreciate you guys so much. But it sounds like he wanted a lot more money than Florida was willing to give him. If he was asking for more money than he was already getting, I mean, that takes some real stones because he was terrible this year. But the truth is, he's going to get it on the market because that's just how this market goes, man. When people in power positions, both in college and the NFL, see these guys with just insane measurables at the quarterback position, they can't help themselves. They can't do it. We've seen it time and time again. The guy is a freak athlete at 6'3", almost 250. He can run you over. He can run around you. He can throw it 85 yards in the air. Somebody's going to pay him a ridiculous amount of money. Now, will he ever make that next step? I don't know. Right now, the suitors apparently LSU, Baylor, Texas Tech being mentioned. By the way, Lenora Sellers at South Carolina, a guy who's kind of built similarly with a similar style game, only a lot more explosive, I think. A lot of thought that he was going to come out this year, and he ended up having a not as good of a season this year as he did the previous year. So he's going to end up staying at South Carolina. Now, Aaron Noland, as you know, transferred down there. He was the third string quarterback at South Carolina last year. He ended up taking just 15 snaps on the year, and looks like he's still going to have a ways to go. Is he going to end up remaining at South Carolina? I guess we'll see. He seems to be a pretty far way away from taking a snap there. Other Buckeyes who transferred out, obviously we had Devin Brown, who was 4 for 7 for 48 yards on the season with 1 touchdown and 1 pick. And that sucks because I was gearing up to watch Cal play this year. I was really looking forward to that. Another team to root for, but he lost that job to an awesome true freshman. And obviously Devin, 1 more year of eligibility. He'll be on his way out and going and looking for a starting job somewhere. How about the dancing queen, huh? How about Jaden Ballard? Jaden Ballard, one of the craziest athletes we've ever seen at Ohio State, the fastest guy on the team every year he was there. This guy, 7 catches for 150 yards at Wisconsin, and that'll do it. That'll be a career, one of the most puzzling careers you've ever seen for a guy who was almost a 5-star receiver coming out of high school and just never could get it together. All the talent in the world. In practice, ridiculous catches. Legendary. Never could play, never could get out there, was more worried about doing TikToks. How about Chip Trainum? Everybody loves Chip. Chip went to Toledo, his 4th school, Kentucky last year, then Toledo, 950 yards and 11 touchdowns. So a really good season for Chip, the Akron native. Evan Pryor down at Cincinnati, just 520 yards, but 6.9 yards a carry. So good for him. Our guy, Mitchell Melton, guys. Mitchell Melton tore it up at Virginia, played 560 snaps for one. He was out there basically every down. 43 tackles, 5 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, a fumble recovery, 3 batted balls, and an interception, and an incredibly high PFF rating. So Mitchell Melton did the damn thing, man. Congrats to him. That guy will always be a Buckeye to me. Gabe Powers. This is a dude who was Mr. Ohio football, had the size, had the speed, kind of had 2 left feet. But when he transferred to Kansas State, I thought that we would certainly see him start at Kansas State. He did not. 21 tackles on the season in a backup role is all Gabe Powers was able to have. Reed Carrico, on the other hand, 69 tackles at West Virginia, and Calvin Simpson Hunt, who came in with Jermaine Matthews in OG Walt's first class, which was a very good class, man. Those are two really highly rated corners. Calvin Simpson Hunt is officially a bust. Played just 3 games for Baylor and was a healthy scratch for the rest of the year. So, talk about a bust. Miles Walker could not crack the 2 deep at Boise State. Not so hot, guys. Not so hot. Now, Mr. Oh, I'm sorry. Do I got to get rid of somebody? Hang on just a second, guys. Is somebody trolling you? The Chaz Coleman Award sounds hard for this cycle. I don't know who we slow played and didn't get a replacement that was better than them. Oh, we'll get there, buddy. We shall get there, my good man. I got one that fits it perfectly. The 24/7 freshman All-American team, headlined by the 5th freshman in Ohio State history to rush for 1,000 yards. That's old number 25, Bo Jackson. Quarterback, what the hell's that kid's name? Bear Brockmeyer. Bear Brockmeyer out of BYU. A couple of guys that made the 247 freshman All-American team. Malachi Toney, Michigan wide receiver Andrew Marsh, and DeCorian Moore, and they totally just handed this thing to DeCorian Moore. Dude had 28 receptions for 400 yards and 3 touchdowns. And then David Sanders Jr., Michael Fasusi at Oklahoma, and Michael Carroll at Alabama. 3 of the 5-star linemen start at Oklahoma, Tennessee, and Alabama, all make the freshman All-American team. And that's something for 3 freshmen starting on the offensive line, as did Donald Glover. Donald Glover at Georgia. Guys familiar with Donald Glover? So Donald Glover makes the freshman All-American team at Georgia. This is a guy who was arrested last week with a teammate of his, another Georgia Bulldog, for shoplifting because Kirby Smart's players don't respect him. And if they did respect him, they would not continue to put him in these situations to make him look like he has no control over his program. So Donald Glover, congratulations on the 247 freshman All-American team and your shoplifting arrest. I don't know how you think you can get away with shoplifting when you are 6'5", 335 pounds. People are just staring at you because you're massive. They're going to catch you throwing a Twinkie in your pocket on the defensive side of the ball. Former Ohio State commit Zahir Mathis was an absolute terror for Maryland this year. 6 sacks, 31 pressures, 35 tackles as a true freshman. And that, buddy, that's a stinger, man. That's a guy who certainly outperformed Bo Atkinson. And, you hear these arguments a lot. I'd rather pay for a proven player. Bo Atkinson was a proven player. And this is a case where the portal confidence went wrong. Trust your evaluation. Larry nailed his evaluation on Zahir. He is, in fact, a dude. And he certainly showed it this year. The number 1 defensive lineman in the country from Georgia, Elijah Griffin. He makes the team. Florida edge, Jaden Woods. Wisconsin linebacker, Mason Posa. Texas safety, Grayson Littleson. And we got 2 cornerbacks, guys. DJ Pickett, LSU. Dijon Lee, Alabama. And cornerback, a position that may be on the Buckeyes transfer portal list. We'll see what Jermaine Matthews ends up doing. We'll go over that maybe Wednesday. But the Buckeyes certainly do not need a portal quarterback, as they've got Julian Sayin. And Julian probably enters the season as the Heisman favorite next year. And I think that he'll win it. Because when we look at Ohio State's schedule next year, there is going to be, number 1, Ryan Day is going to trust him with more on his plate. And number 2, it's a difficult schedule that is going to require Ohio State to have 4th quarter comebacks and be in the games late. And that's what you got to have. But as we talk about DJ Lagway and we talk about Dylan Raiola entering the transfer portal, I want to show you something, a little refresher course, a little reminder of the quarterback class of 2024 with DJ Lagway at number 1, Dylan Raiola at number 2, and our guy sitting at number 3 as those two's careers are in flux as they head to their second school. And you can tell me till you're blue in the face that Julian Sayin is a transfer. I'll never believe it. It didn't happen. He's been a Buckeye all along. The guy went to bowl practice with Alabama, put on the uniform, and ran scout team. By the way, Julian Sayin to Alabama is the same thing as what we saw last year when the Ohio State freshmen traveled with the team throughout the playoffs, right? They traveled with the team throughout the playoffs. Now, they got to go to 4 separate games. Julian went to 1. And crappy news this year, as the incoming freshmen this year, not going to be able to do what those freshmen did last year. They're not allowed to do that. So they can't go to the games. They can't participate in practice. And that really sucks for them, because I thought that was a great way to ingratiate those guys with the team, to show them what those big games are like. And then the next time they're there, like, they've already kind of experienced it. They haven't played in it, but they've felt what it's like to be in the locker room, coming out of the tunnel. They felt it all. I thought that was a great thing. So they're not going to be allowed to do that this year, and that really sucks. Now, as we get further into the NIL world, Ohio State is trying to be the absolute best program when it comes to third-party NIL deals, something Ross Bjork has talked about extensively with the Buckeye Sports Group, with the backing of Learfield and Learfield's Rolodex and their support. The Buckeye Sports Group is essentially trying to play matchmaker between Ohio State athletes and a company, a lot of companies. And the more deals they can get together and the more deals they can be successful with, they get to go then into recruiting cycles. Instead of just dropping the bag, they get to say, I want to show you our portfolio of what we've been able to get for all of our people, and show them that this is not just making money, but it's raising your awareness, your brand awareness, your Q score. It's way better if you can make a $100,000 brand deal than if I give you $140,000. Like, the brand deal's way more. And the more they can do this, the better. Now, that goes a long way. And none of our players currently have any Nike deals. We've got a couple that have Adidas deals, Jeremiah Smith, Chris Henry Jr., both with Adidas deals. But Ohio State's a Nike school. And the Ohio State Nike contract was signed in 2018. It runs through 2033, a 15-year contract. That contract was signed for $252 million. Now, Texas had just signed theirs for $250 with Nike in 2017, which was the biggest at the time. The Buckeyes got the bigger one. Oregon fans in particular are quick to toss around the fact that Ohio State has the highest Nike deal when people talk about Oregon and Nike money, as if a brand deal is the same thing as Nike employees who literally were tasked by Phil Knight to start Division Street. That's their collective, literally run by Nike, their collective. That's the Nike money. But Ohio State will never not be extremely valuable in this brand deal space. And I got to question the decision to sign on for 15 years. That's advantage Nike. That's assuming that nothing's going to change. And things changed a lot since Ohio State signed that deal. When we talk about the Buckeyes, Ohio State is the biggest brand in the country. When we look at the top 3 games this year, eyeballs wise, Ohio State, Texas, Ohio State, Michigan, Ohio State, Indiana, 1, 2, 3. And if you are a star player at Ohio State, the level of fame that you can reach is higher than anywhere else. And Jeremiah proves that. Jeremiah has crossed over from college football celebrity to American celebrity at Ohio State. Your Q score is higher than anywhere else if you pop off at Ohio State. The Buckeyes, number 1. The only thing this does not help you in is the Heisman Trophy voting. And anyone who argues that Ohio State isn't the top brand in the college football sports world are either dressed in maize and blue or blue and gold, or they're just uneducated on this topic. The Notre Dame and Michigan folks, they just don't want to accept this despite every study, as unscientific as they are. They all say Ohio State is the largest fan base in the country, some of them by a very good bit. I've scoured them all. I think the al.com one is the best, but there was one that was done recently that says Michigan is the biggest. It was done by The Athletic. by two guys. One of them, a Michigan beat reporter named Austin Meek. So the Michigan folks like to throw that one around here and there. Now, this guy, guess what dates he used when compiling the data? From 2021 to 2024, he compiled data. Of course, those numbers are going to be very skewed towards Michigan. It was the most successful period in their entire existence. He used figures like attendance to determine the biggest fan base, which is crazy. And he cooked the books to make it come out Michigan to pat his folks on the head. But we all know that Ohio State's the biggest. Notre Dame thinks they're the only ones that could be independent and have their own deal with a network, which is absolutely untrue. I think Ohio State, I think Michigan, I think Texas could do it too. Penn State did do it, not the network, but they could potentially do that as well. And SEC fans, many of them don't understand how much bigger the Big Four in our region are, because they think people in the North don't love football as much as them. And I'm about to show you the financial numbers that really show the stark difference here. But the reason I'm on this topic is because yesterday news broke that LSU extended their Nike deal. Now, I can't find the previous deal that they had, and the AD will not speak on the financial numbers of this deal, but the deal includes Nike's new NIL program that they've just introduced called the Blue Ribbon Elite Program. And the statement says, alongside the extension, Nike is introducing the Nike Blue Ribbon Elite first of its kind program deal that reimagines NIL space through unmatched collaboration with athletes and schools, beginning with LSU. LSU, the flagship school for the first ever Blue Ribbon Elite NIL program. 10 top Tiger athletes signed to Nike's deals, and they get to be involved with creation, outfitting. They get to do all this stuff. And man, we need this. We need this bad. This is the kind of thing that we have lost some of those Oregon kids to, right? Naeem Offer, my shoe, right? Like this right here levels the playing field with those idiots. And I am very much looking forward to Ohio State being able to get in on this, but the deal goes to 2033. How does Ohio State get up on this? Because this is a game changer here. This is something that, you know, there is a lot of kids who are going to absolutely be swayed by this thing right here. If I was Ohio State, it's time to play hardball here. Ohio State needs to make this happen before 2033. They better come and blue ribbon certify Ohio State. They're certainly more valuable to them than LSU is. And Penn State's Adidas deal, what they just did, blows Ohio State's Nike deal away. Penn State left Nike in large part due to feeling like a second-class citizen. They felt like a second-class citizen to Ohio State. So Ohio State got new uniforms last playoffs with the gold swoosh, right, for the playoffs. Penn State was salty that they did not get them. I imagine Nike probably thought they didn't want them. Remember, if you go, maybe you don't. I don't know. I'm getting old now. But when Penn State first went to Nike, there was a big fight about whether or not they were going to put the swoosh on the jersey to begin with, just the swoosh itself. Like Penn State did not want it. It was a big fight. Well, Penn State is switching to Adidas. Some of their fans don't like that because a lot of people don't like Adidas's product. Adidas has put out some super ugly football uniforms in the past. But I'll tell you this, man, Nike, there's this rumor, right, that the reason Ohio State isn't wearing the black uniforms anymore is because Nike doesn't make the current template in black for Ohio State. Like, if that's the reason, I'm sure Adidas will take care of that. Now, I know nobody likes the thought of Ohio State wearing Adidas uniforms. It doesn't even sound right. I get it. But what if it doubled the deal? And what if Penn State has a bunch of their athletes now signing with Adidas? Penn State's deal with Adidas is worth double of what Ohio State's deal is worth with Nike. $300 million for 10 years. That is $30 million a year. Ohio State is at 16.8 a year. Penn State, double what Ohio State's getting. And Adidas is signing their athletes. Now, Penn State is incredibly valuable in this space, but not more valuable than Ohio State. And when we talk about the difference between the Big Four in the North and the SEC schools, Penn State and Tennessee just signed with Adidas, guys, both of them this summer. We talk about Penn State and Tennessee as far as programs, as far as like historical relevance. Wouldn't you think these are pretty similar programs? Well, they are. Last year, I did the official Juck on Bucks all-time program rankings, right? 1 through 12. By the way, I got an email from a guy over the weekend, a listener named Dwayne, and he went back to that episode that I did when I was fairly new starting the show. And I did this episode and I put together this point system that I used and I explained it all on the show. And he put it all down and made it into a PDF. And he writes it all down. He had a couple of questions. And so he wrote me with this thing, kept calling me Chris. I don't know why that was. Chris Juck Milletti. Juck, my family's nickname for Justin, in case anyone was wondering. Some don't think that's weird, whatever. Like, people call guys that are named Charles Chuck. So I don't think that's any weirder than that. But anyway, the guy nicknames me, or the guy emails me this. It's awesome. If anybody wants a copy, email me at juckonbucks@gmail.com. It's a breakdown of the blue bloods of college football in my ranking system that I use to rank them. But when we talk about ranking the 8 blue bloods from my data, and again, this was all data, none of it was my opinion. The only part that was my opinion was what statistical categories am I going to use to do this, and I chose 12 different statistical categories. The rankings in order: Ohio State, Alabama, Michigan, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, USC, Nebraska, Texas. That's where it cuts off from the blue bloods. Then you've got at number 9, Georgia, with Texas right on Georgia right on Texas's heels. Then Tennessee, number 10 all time. Number 11 is LSU. Number 12 is Penn State. So my point is, Tennessee is more historically relevant than Penn State, though not recently, but a rabid fan base, a massive stadium, and the difference between the Penn State Adidas deal and the Tennessee Adidas deal that were executed within a month of each other is both 10-year deals. Penn State's $300 million, Tennessee $100 million. That is a staggering difference in value. I couldn't believe it when I read it. I knew they had both switched to Adidas. I did not realize that that was the difference. So if that's the difference between those two, what's the difference between Ohio State and everybody else to Adidas? Like, it's got to be a lot. It's got to be a lot. They could certainly double it up. And if you're telling me that Ross Bjork is intending on selling a space for a patch on the jersey, the most beautiful jersey in sports, I'd rather just go ahead and swap to Adidas patch instead of wearing Safe Light Repair, Safe Light Replace over here, in addition to the Nike patch. So I put together a little graph of brand deals that I could find. Penn State and Nike. I'm sorry, that's wrong. It's Penn State and Adidas. 10 years, $300 million. Then you got Ohio State and Nike, 15 years, $252 million. Texas and Nike, 15, $250. Look at this one. Louisville and Adidas, 10 years for $160. Louisville is worth the same as Ohio State's per year, but they got both football and basketball. Kansas and Adidas, 14 for $191. That's a really big deal. Michigan and Nike, 15 for $173, which comes out to just under Ohio State's deal. Notre Dame and Under Armour. Look at that. 10 for $100 million. 10 for $100 million. That is nowhere near Penn State. Penn State triples the Notre Dame deal. And then you got the poor Tennessee. That's supposed to be 10 years. But I really jacked this graphic up. I'm sorry, guys. Our man Chris says, Jed is 100% going to Teton. Sad. I like that guy. I like him too. Sage says, what happened to the Sullivan twins? Not sure who the Sullivan twins are offhand, buddy. You mean the Armstrong twins? Is that what you're talking about, offensive lineman? Destroy Mark says, Juck, ironically, the best part of DJ Lagway's career was his freshman ending, where he beat those teams while going like 5-4 touchdown INT ratio. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Nebraska fired his uncle. That's weird. I thought that they were really tight. Matt Rule and the uncle. 41 is your all-time likes. How is that possible? One of my favorite OSU shows. I wasn't talking about likes. I was talking about guests, which we've smashed the record now. We are at 5,592 folks in the room here with me, which is huge. So appreciate you guys all so much for joining me tonight. I think we will be going tomorrow at 11 a.m. live over at Juck on Bucks. I went at 11 a.m. today. I apparently wrote p.m. and the guys were making fun of me. So it is what it is. Billy Palmer doesn't think Adidas is that bad. Isn't Adidas a curse? I don't know. Adidas is a program killer, says Rod. Hey, man, Rod stays hip to this stuff. He knows. Timo thinks that Lincoln would be wise to transfer maybe to Nebraska since Real is moving in with Mahomes. You always thought my real name was Juck and thought I had creative parents. No, creative nickname, I guess. Little Jucky. That's who I was. Did y'all hear about the Brown Jug reprinting their menu to remove Paige Shivers' cauliflower gluten-free 12-inch pizza? I did not hear that, but it does not surprise me one bit. It's kind of amazing that she got her name on the menu, don't you think? Does LeBron influence the link to Nike for OSU? You know, I don't know, man. I really don't know. He does these things where LeBron gave us a gift of cleats, and it's just like, obviously Nike gives the cleats and says that for the publicity or whatever. They act like LeBron like scratched the check to Nike and said, send my boys some cleats or something. Not how that works, but anyway, I appreciate you guys so much. Thanks so much for joining me. Please do check out me and Mark's time capsules on Buckeye Huddle. They're a whole lot of fun. We put a lot of work into them. We're going to continue to do them, going over each Ohio State prospect and kind of a little bit about their recruitment and what we see coming from them on the field here soon. But I appreciate you guys, and I will be back on Wednesday here at 8 p.m. on Buckeye Huddle Primetime, and I will see you then. Have a great one.